Welcome, everyone. So Juliana, you can put on the PowerPoint presentation now.
Do we all see the PowerPoints?
Yes, it's there. So welcome, everyone, to the Ideas for Gender Equality Innovation Challenge. And we're so happy to be here. This is our second event, and I am coming to you from Kingston, Ontario. And I'm so happy once again to have you here. So what we're going to do today, we are so fortunate that we're partnering with Equal Futures Network, and they've been a great partner with us to walk you through this innovation challenge. And we're going to be focused on people, perspective, and partnership. And I'm going to guide you through what the innovation challenge will look like and what you will experience, and just take you through to the agenda. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Is it moving?
No.
Weird. Let me stop share and share again. Stop my video. Okay. Okay.
There we go. So we're going to look at the insights and some key concepts that makes up this idea for gender equality. I'm going to walk you through the ideas challenge so you understand before you go into virtual breakout groups. And we really, in this space, we're going to be honoring the diversity experience of the expertise in the room. All of us are inclusive leaders. All of us have expertise, and we all have insights. So we encourage you to listen, to respect all the other opinions. And this is about learning and about expanding our knowledge and bringing you knowledge and also wisdom with all of our experience. The point of this innovation challenge is to generate some interesting, fresh and respectful conversation and ideas. And it is putting all these ideas into action. When we think of gender equity, we know there are issues, there are challenges, and we can talk about that all day long. Ideas for Gender Equality Project is all about inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. But the most important thing that we're focusing on in this project is about how can we create a solution. Next slide, please. I forgot to introduce myself, sorry. I'm the project coordinator for the project, and this project is managed by BPW Canada and also CCEW, the Canadian Coalition to Empower Women. We are funded by Women and Gender Equity Canada, and this project is funded till March of 2024. So next slide. The basis of our project and the basis of this exercise is about the ideas. It's about inclusion. And that's where individuals and collective act in creating a welcoming and safe environment where everybody feels that they belong and are respected. It's also about diversity. It represents all different ways that people show up in the world, different knowledge, their intersectionality. So diversity can look very different in a community. Diversity is of LGBTQ community in your workspace. Is it a mix of cisgender men, cisgender women? Is it people with different abilities? So diversity is basically the reflection of our community and the community that we live in. Equity is consciously and intentionally having policies that can help to bring equity and equal access to individuals from marginalized groups, voices who traditionally have not been heard, and redistribute those tools and resources to groups and people who traditionally may not have access to it because of systemic racism and sexism. And access is making that commitment in creating an inclusive world. So we can have policies that are equitable, but are they accessible? Are they practical? And as I said, solutions is generating all of those things where you bring the inclusion, diversity, equity, and access together to create a practical, sustainable solutions. So in a nutshell, this is what the idea for Gender Equality Project is about. We do this through having events. We are funded to create 3 events minimum. We did one in Toronto in August, and we're doing one here. And when we get together and we do this challenge, it's the community that says, this is an idea that we wanted to work on. You generate a concept, a solution. What we did in August of last year, the focus was on hiring. And we took that, and I'll share it at the end of my presentation when you're all finished. We went from August to actually now having a practical solution. Next slide, please. So for today, this is how the challenge works. So when we're doing this, we worked with the ideas for gender equality, and we created this challenge it came out of working with the What Works Toolkit. And you can find that online by simply downloading the What Works Toolkit. When you are in your group, you will be asked, and for today, because we are a small group, we're going to focus on inclusion and diversity. So each group will have a facilitator and a recorder. When you get into the group, you will be doing your introductions of who you are, why you're there, what organizations you represent, the community that you live in, whatever you wish to share. And then the facilitator will ask you to select. So we're going to use, for now as we're together, we're going to use the inclusion group as an example of how this will work. And as I said, because we're a small group, we're only going to have 2 groups today, which is inclusion and diversity. So as a facilitator, when you get into the group, they will ask you to put in the chat a number. So for inclusion, you will be asked, what part of inclusion would you like to focus on? Leadership behaviors, how leaders show the way and how they interact. Is that an area you want to focus on? Individual empowerment practices. How can we empower people as individuals to feel that they are more included? Safe community, culture of trust, or sense of belonging and authenticity. So you will put that number in the chat. And I mean, if it's a small group and there's only 2 or 3 of you, it will be really easier to decide, right? Whatever number comes out the most, that's going to be the focus. So if we go to the next slide. So, and this is an interactive and innovative workshop. It's a way of how we can pull people together to get people's voice heard. And it allows us, when we do this process, so I'm going to ask you not to want to jump to the solution, because this, how we created this innovative challenge is actually to help people to feel included, to feel that their voice is heard, and to remember that everyone learns differently. So actually taking each step allows people to generate a conversation, to expand on it. And as we're only going to be in the group maybe for about 40 minutes, it allows people to feel that they're heard, because we all process information and learn things from a different time and span. So remember, everyone approaches issues with a different lens, and that's very important. Having different lens allows us to see the world as how I may see it. As a Black woman, I may see issues that other groups may not see. And it's not right or wrong, it's just adding another lens. When we add different lens to a perspective, we get to see the whole challenges, and that's how inclusion and equity truly happens. Sometimes your emotions might come up because you might feel really passionate about an issue, and this might be something that you really want to work on. But remember to be respectful, and that everyone has a different opinion. You do not have to share any personal experience. There's no pressure to do that, but I invite you to participate. I encourage you that if people do share something personal in the group, that's where it stays. When we're in the virtual group, it's that part of it is not going to be recorded. The only thing that's going to be recorded is the recorder is going to take notes, and that information is going to be brought back to the entire group. Mindfulness and openness and respect are the key, and I'm sure that we who are in this space, you totally know that. So the next slide. So in inclusion, we will have Karen will be there doing the facilitator, and we will have Tammy as a recorder. And diversity is Toby, I believe. And we'll have Chris as a recorder. So there's 4. And Chantel, you can, I don't see anybody requesting French. You'll be randomly placed in a group. Okay. And I'm not sure if actually in the Whitehorse group, if there's anyone there, but Erin will be the facilitator if there's anybody in that group, actually in that location, and she'll be working with them. Next slide, please. So as I said, when you get into the group as a facilitator, what will happen, they will ask these questions, they will review the opportunities, and you will place your number. This is what's if it's in person, you would put it on the chart here that we have, but as I said, we're just going to put it in the chat. And then that's how you're going to determine what you're going to focus. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to pull it all together now. Next slide, please. So, and Juliana, just for this one, you're just going to click and it'll take you through the steps. So for step 1, as you see here, when you have gone through what we call a pinning exercise, you're going to write in, if it's number 4, let's say, for example, that your subtopic, as we see here by the red, it says inclusion safe community. Okay. And those who are recording, you will have one sheet of a word paper. You're just going to write it through, but this is just a visual for you to understand. And if you click step 2, you just have to click, click your mouse and it should pop up. Yeah. Step 1A. Then after that, you write down, after you write in the topic, you're going to talk about the pre-conscious bias and myths that is around this topic. What are some things that naturally will pop up that people are going to possibly think about it? And we have about 6 things that you can start the conversation: gender and career gaps, controlling bias is all about changing individuals, focusing on large corporation will change the game, just need to fix or change women. So you go through those biases that people have that's maybe preconceived, and a bias is just something that we believe to be true, and some of them are unconscious or implicit bias, and it's just the way that we think. But those are the reasons when we have a bias, it holds us back from bringing equity, because that only lets us see our lens and we're not open to seeing other people's lens. So what are some bias that might be generally in the community around this specific subtopic? And you can always bring in other biases that you feel that's important to discuss. And the next one, step 2. So then you're going to brainstorm potential solutions, and then you're going to define a fresh solution. So it's really, so you're going to brainstorm some solutions that you have for this subtopic. Then you're going to define it. And then steps 3 is how to promote an intersectional approach, like how, that's the other part of it. And then finally, you're going to report out and you're going to name the solution, and then we'll come back. So that's where we are right now. So we'll just leave it here. So I wondered, before we put you in the chat, let's see if there's any questions. Okay. So Chantal, did you get the slides?
Yes, I did.
Okay, awesome. So we're gonna, Juliana, you can turn off the the PowerPoint now. We're going to put everybody in breakout groups. So as I said, we're going to just have 2 breakout groups, one inclusion and one for diversity. Karen is a facilitator for inclusion, and Tammy. Sorry. And Toby. Sorry, got my T's mixed up. So we're going to take about, as we're small, we'll probably take 40 minutes. I think that's going to be enough time because it's just a small group. So Juliana, you can put people into 2 groups.
Okay. Okay.
And before you do that, I just want to make sure that Karen and Toby, you all have your PowerPoint. Okay, awesome. Chantel, do you have a preference which group you want to go in?
I'd love to be in the diversity group if possible.
Okay, so we can put Chantel with Toby in the diversity group.
Okay, Chantal and Toby. And they are going to be there for how
Tammy's going with Karen. And Chris can go, I guess. Chris, do you want to go with Karen?
Go nicely.
Okay, you go with Karen nicely and be nice. There you go.
Okay.
And we're going to do 40 minutes.
Okay, I'm just creating the group, and then for inclusion, I will assign Karen
And Tammy and Chris.
and Tammy. Okay,
And Chris.
we go. And diversity, I'll assign
Diversity, you're going to assign Toby and
Toby
Chantel.
and Chantel.
Now,
Okay.
participants, if you, we're just going to randomly put you in a group.
Yep.
If you don't have a preference, we're just going to put you randomly. And just to let you know, there won't be any interpretation in English or French in the breakout group. It will be only when we get back together. And do you all facilitators, and now you're going to be a recorder, you all have the recorded, the one sheet to take the recorded, you all have that?
So I think we have enough for 3 groups because we don't want more than 4 in a group, right?
Well, there's only, well, the other people, there's Maggie, Jenny, Emmer, and Larissa. There's only 4.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just leave it at 2.
Okay.
You just let me know when it's all done.
Yeah. And for 50 minutes, right? How long?
It's 1:27 now. Yeah, let's do 50 minutes. If they're finished, then we can just bring them back.
Okay, so I'm opening up the room now.
Okay. See you on the other side.
Bye.
Bye.
So is everybody back in, I think?
I think the room just closed now because it was counting down.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so like in a minute, I think everybody should be here now.
Yeah, I think everybody's here. Yeah, 14. Yep, everybody's back. Well, welcome back. So thank you for, I got to hear some interesting conversations, and I love the questions. So we're going to start with our inclusion group. Who will be reporting back? Would it be you, Karen, or Tammy?
It's going to be me, actually.
Okay.
Tammy. She did
All right.
such a great job as recorder, so she's got all the perfect.
So if you just want to go through the question and then you tell us the answer, we'll just listen here and I'll take some notes.
Sure.
So
So
the
our
Zoom
group is
floor is yours.
awesome. So our group is inclusion. The subtopic that the group selected was leadership behavior. So validating and reinforcing behaviors that can create a space where all can thrive. Key themes that we talked about initially were leaders being willing to share what they feel with other people and including their staff in the journey, setting an example as a leader, and then the level of leadership, top down, being top down, the skill sets and the mentoring and everything we're going to talk about comes from the top down. So number 3, some of the pre-conscious myths or biases that we talked about with the help of Ophelia, thank you very much, was about the gender career gaps that are a product of choice. Controlling the bias is all about changing individuals, and focusing on large corporations. Corporations will change the game. So we talked about under the career gaps, the choices. So really taking a look at the myths of, is it just cis women that take care of children and elders, or do we need to look at, you know, we have stay-at-home dads, we have other individuals that take care of the children and the elders. Controlling the bias is at an individual level. We talked about how, you know, we need to be looking at changes at a systemic level or a macro level. And then large companies, it's not just large companies that are going to change the game. We have to look at how we can involve medium-sized and small-based businesses as well. So our solutions, so we brainstormed some possible solutions. So we talked about training for leaders, but they don't have a lot of time for training. We talked about, you know, how would we motivate leaders to lean into these issues? And so we thought, you know, catching their attention with profits. How are you going to maximize profits by leaning into inclusion? And we also talked about at an individual level or macro level, the mentoring. We really had a really robust discussion about how we could use mentoring in different formats and ways to be more inclusive in organizations. And then also talked about how we can be open-minded in organizations within a, you know, corporate culture, which traditionally has been designed by men. So how do we look at that? So the solution that we thought we would land on was the maximizing profits. So how do we motivate leaders to you know, how do we catch their interest with, how can you maximize profit by leaning into inclusion? So how do we motivate them? And then some of our ideas. So the title would be, number 6, the title would be how to motivate leaders to lean into inclusion as a way to maximize profit. And then the few important main pieces would be, so connecting leaders to resources. So a tool would be a list of resources that they could use. Looking at how can we encourage leaders to partner with organizations like not-for-profits that work with immigrants as a way to fill their employee shortage. Then in regards to the mentorship piece, you know, co-learning, co-mentoring, how do we come up with different forms of mentorship that aren't just about, you know, learning from a more experienced mentor, but also learning from somebody who speaks a different language or is a different gender or is in a different department where we could cross-train. So looking at how you could really maximize the mentorship. And all about it, and it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about how do we engage people to look at things from a different perspective or from a, you know, from stepping into somebody else's shoes. And please, my team, tell me if I missed anything.
No, you rocked it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anything else that anyone there may want to add? Okay, awesome. So diversity group, who will be reporting back? Oh, Maggie?
Hi, Chantal Fraser here, reporting back. Toby gave me a task, so I'm on it.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second, Chantal. Maggie had her hand up. Maggie, go ahead.
Sorry.
It's
No,
okay.
I'm just a chair for Tammy's very great summary of our discussion. So it's a chair for clap.
Oh, it's a clap. Okay. I don't know my emojis. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right, go ahead, Chantal.
Okay, first, thank you to everybody in our group for sharing your great experiences. We had diversity, and it was hands down the topic that won was intentional intersectional recruitment. And what was interesting about our group is that we had a strong representation from the medical field and particularly from women's health. So it came from a perspective of women working in women's health, where predominantly most of the people working in women's health are women, right? And so we had a bit of a discussion at the beginning about not intentionally going out to create more gender diversity in the hires to expand beyond women, but noting that in many cases, the senior management were male and older white men. So that it's not in every organization, but there is still a tendency to have that. And we talked about some of the myths and stuff, but I want to jump right ahead into the solution we were working on building with the great feedback from our group. And we talked about a bunch of different things. The first and most important thing that was brought up in our group was making sure that you're creating a safe space, doing that work before you try to do the intentional intersectional recruitment. And a wonderful example that was shared was offering mandatory 8 weeks of Indigenous cultural training so that everybody in the women's health organization would understand where Indigenous people are coming from and how to create a culturally safe place for both new staff coming in who are Indigenous and patients. And what we talked about was sometimes you need to put a pause on your efforts to do intentional intersectional recruitment until you've created that safe space for people to come to and work with you. We also talked about making the whole recruitment process accessible, and not just accessible for people with disabilities, but accessible for people from different cultures and different lived experiences, accessible for people who are new to Canada, accessible in all of the broad definition of what accessibility can mean. And for example, one of the things that you can do is on your job posters, get rid of that jargon, that techno speak that people might not understand, and get rid of everything that's unnecessary. Really look down to what's essential for the job description and the job posting. So don't put artificial requirements for education or experience, really what's essential, so that people who aren't from the culture that created the organization or who are currently working there don't feel that they should self-select out of the recruitment process. We also talked about really important things to do, making it more accessible by including phone numbers and email addresses to the HR team, so that when you're applying for those jobs, if you have questions, you have somebody that you can reach out to and ask your questions, regardless of what your question might be. That makes it more welcoming and more accessible. We talked about as you're going through the hiring process and once somebody's employed, letting everybody know that HR is there to help you, right? So if there's something that comes up and you're not sure about, talk to your HR team because they can help you out. And then we talked about the real importance that leaders play, the role that leaders have, and that leaders need to ask those tough questions right from when they're trying to figure out if their organization is welcoming to all through the process. And that includes things like checking out, are you really being inclusive? Are you really creating that welcoming space? And we talked about the importance of leaders leading by example and showing that's inclusive. For example, during Asian Heritage Month a year or two ago, the example was shared that you could, introducing yourself in your Canadian name and introducing yourself in your Korean name. So Jenny shared that example, and how when she did that at a meeting, how that opened up the conversation and other people shared their names that they use at work and their names that they use in their family. And Amira shared an example of a Black woman who has no problem asking the tough questions and calling out when places aren't safe and when things are happening that makes it uncomfortable. So, we had lots of great examples, and really we didn't have time to come up with a title, but from the way everything was going, I'd say the title for our intentional intersectional recruitment was Leading by Example. Thank you.
That was awesome. Powerful conversations. I really enjoyed jumping in. And the theme that I wrote down here is really about intentional, right? When I was in one of the groups, it was talking about performative. And what I'm hearing here with these two ideas, even though you're working on inclusion and diversity, there's a lot of overlapping. It's about intentional and not being performative. And that's the whole idea about the idea for Gender Equality Project. It's about bringing people together because we know the issues. You know, in 2023, if organizations do not know the challenges that are facing our people, they may not want to know, right? But there are also ways to learn. So the conversations when I was coming in, no matter what group you were in, you were talking about real solutions that's going to bring real change, that's not performative, that involves top down, but also empowering people from the bottom up, because that's really the key. Systemic discrimination and oppression takes away the natural power that a person has and convince them individually and convince society systemically and structurally that these people do not have value or worth, and whatever group that we're trying to empower. So as I listen to these solutions that you've been bringing forth, and it's not so much about the name, I want to share with you what we did in August. We did the same process, and I want to share with you how we took this forward. So if we can go to the next slide, Juliana. So thank you so much for reporting back. It's really great. And what you can do as a recorder, you can just send me the information and we'll pull it together in a report. We're just at the beginning. Part of the ideas solution is not just about coming here and creating ideas, it's actually taking it into action. And that is what the S is for. It's about sustainable solutions. How are we going to create a sustainable solution and an idea? Because to make change, we have to have innovative ideas. And if you're interested in taking both or one of these topics together, I want to share with you how we have done that. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you in a moment, we have an invitation for you if you're interested to go to our post-event page. We really appreciate it, and we'll put that link in the chat. But in order to do that, we have a whole community in House Space. This is an online community platform. It's safe and secure. And in order for us to have you share your opinions, and if you want to become what we call a solution builder, where you can take this idea that you created and part of the group into action, we would love to have you. So Juliana, you can stop sharing this slide and let's just go to the live websites. Do you want me to share them? Would that be?
I'm good. I'm just, I thought it was. So the link is in the chat and I'll be sharing it as well. No.
Okay. So we can go to our CCEW page.
Okay. You see my screen? Okay.
Yes, and if we can go under the Toronto event, the events. So in August of last year, we had a big ideas for gender equality event. And it's basically what we did here. We had it in person and we had it virtually as well. And the same exercise that you have just did, a group of people did that. So you can always visit our page. We also launched the What Works Toolkit, which was delivered by KPMG. And on our website here is, Juliana, you can go to the 50, sorry, if you can go back up a little bit, right here. So here you can actually see the What Works Toolkit. It's on our website. And Juliana will put the website in the chat. It's ccew.ca. And you can view what we did in Toronto. But I want to take you through the steps to help you to understand that part of the ideas community is not just leaving your ideas here in the on the space and having notes. It's actually bringing something to fruition and having a live product. This is a What Works toolkit that was created for the 50-30 challenge, and it has it in English and in French. And when you click on the link, you will be taken directly to the site, and it'll show you all the key questions that we had and so forth. And you will also be able, if you just Google the What Works toolkit, you can actually go through that with your organizations. It's very heavy in the sense that sometimes some organizations might find it overwhelming, but it's a great resource. So now, Julianne, if we can go to the our solution builder page on HowSpace.
Do you see my screen? The
Yes,
house.
there.
Yep.
So this is our community and HowSpace. And if you would like to stay in touch with us, but we really love your feedback, if you can just scroll down here. After the event, we would love your feedback. You can come in here and just rate it and tell us what your thoughts were. And if you would like to become a solution builder, you can put your name in here, and this is open for everyone. So this is what happened that we did in the August event. We invited people to become a solution builder. And the solution that when everybody came together, what they wanted to talk about was hiring process. So we met and started around in October. We had a group of about 18 people who signed up to be a solution builder after the event, and they stayed committed. And then we started generating ideas. We started generating a conversation just like you did today, but we did it in a strategic way. And we showcased how we can create that event, that solution, bring it from an idea into action. So all that work starting from October, we are now in the final stages of creating an online people-centric hiring solution. And I'll show you just the homepage. It's not live. This is first time that we're showing it public. So it's, yes, that one. So this is our work. So from an event in August, like you're having one today, groups of people went through this same process that you did. We took their notes, we looked for themes, we invited people to be a solution builder. And the solution that they select is, how do we attract the best and brightest candidates? And the focus was on smaller organizations to help to make it simple, organizations that weren't so large. And we came up with an inclusive people-centric hiring strategy. And if we can just scroll down a little bit, it took us months of just fine-tuning. What is it? What do we need? Just like the discussion that we had today in one of the groups that talks about, when we were talking about performative, is how do we ensure that companies are not just doing this about performative? And one aspect was really important about people learning about the historical aspects of racism and sexism. So if we can go down a little bit more, and we came up with these 6 steps. And as I said, this is not live, but I'm just sharing with you how this idea that you just did today can become an actual solution. So in that process, the 6 steps are, and we're just putting in the data right now and the information, our journey begins, understanding the core parts of the history, effects of sexism, racism, and all the other forms of oppression and some key definitions. And without that, people really can go to step 2. Step 2 is about inclusive outreach and retention. Step 3 is inclusive person-centric job description. Step 4 is inclusive job postings, bias training tools for interview selection, and then what's next? How do you go? So we came up with those 6 steps, and that's the process. So I'm so proud of our team, and we're going to continue to, this isn't launch, but I just wanted to share and show you the process of how your idea can become a solution. So I invite you to share your email if you want to do it directly to myself or Juliana, or send us an email. Juliana, you can put our emails in the chat. And we would love to continue this process with you.
I think to make it easier, they can drop their email in the chat so I can add them to.
Yes,
even
you can do that. Juliana would just add you if you wish.
If you wish, you can drop an email and I can add you to the house space so you can access the post event.
And it's a very safe site. Every time you sign in, it will send you an email to confirming. So it keeps this your safety. So you can stop the slide now, Juliana, stop sharing. So right now we are at the end of the session, and I want to thank you so much, my facilitators and record keepers, and of course the participants. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. I'm just going to check the chat, and yes, thanks, Chantel. And you can connect to me. I would love to stay connected with you as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't have I'll just look for that right now. Is there any questions or comments anyone would like to make? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to add you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn and stay in touch. So thank you so much for coming. Now, if you don't, your input has been very valuable. So thank you for taking the time and sharing your insights and your valuable time with us. We so appreciate us for allowing us to be here. And I always love when people get together and just share, because I can tell from being in the group that we're all passionate about bringing equity to spaces that needs it. So I want to take a screenshot if you would. So look your best. If you want to come on camera, that's be great. If you don't, that's fine. So just look up and smile. Okay. I'm going to see if it comes out really well. Of course, I'm the one who's looking down, so I have to let me do it again. Okay, let's see. Awesome. You look great. So thank you so much, everybody. Wishing you a happy Thursday and stay safe. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Celia. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.